For a long moment, no one spoke. The playroom felt too quiet, as if something unseen still lingered in the corners. The soft tick of the tiny wall clock grew louder, filling the silence as Kate held Charlotte and Lewis close. Her heart was still racing, but something had shifted inside her, a mother's intuition, sharpening with every passing second. Michael remained still, scanning the room again, not just looking, but observing every shadow, every
It happened in a single heartbeat, a scream, a name, and then the thunder of boots echoing through Kensington Palace. When Princess Charlotte cried out for help, one royal guard didn't hesitate. He didn't ask permission. He didn't wait for protocol. He sprinted down the corridor with a force that shook the palace walls. What he found at the end of that hallway left even senior staff frozen. And for Kate, standing just a few steps away, the truth behind Charlotte's terrified scream changed everything. If stories like this pull you in as much as they do for us, make sure you tap like and subscribe. It helps us bring you more real royal moments, unseen guard accounts, and the quiet truths behind palace walls. And hey, if you enjoy these deep dive stories, feel free to share this video with someone who loves the royals as much as you do. It began like any other calm afternoon inside Kensington Palace, the kind of day where the halls feel warm, the staff move quietly, and the royal guards stand in their usual stillness. But peace can shatter in unexpected ways, and on that day, everything changed with one sound. A scream, sharp, frightened, and unmistakably Princess Charlotte's, whipped through the corridor like a crack of lightning. For a split second, the palace froze. Staff paused mid-step. Even the air seemed to tighten. And then came the name. Clear, urgent, desperate. Michael! It wasn't Mummy. It wasn't Papa. It wasn't a nanny or a maid or a guard at her door. It was his name. And for the man W.H. heard it, that single cry sliced straight into instinct. Michael Alden, a royal guard known for his controlled expression and steady posture, didn't hesitate. The moment Charlotte's voice hit the air, his body moved before his mind could catch up. He broke formation, something a guard almost never does without an order, and he ran. Not a polite jog, not a careful step. He stormed the corridor with a force that made portraits tremble on the walls. Boots thundered against polished floors. His red tunic flashed past startled staff. Gasps echoed behind him, but none of it mattered. He wasn't running because protocol told him to. He was running because a little girl who trusted him had called for him by name, something that rarely happens between a royal child and a guard, and he knew that kind of scream. It wasn't playful. It wasn't dramatic. It was fear, the pure kind that children can't fake. As Michael sprinted, memories of another young voice from years ago flickered through his mind, but he shoved them away. This moment, this child, this palace, they needed him now. Up ahead, two palace aides heard the commotion and backed out of the way. One called out, "What's wrong? What happened?" But Michael didn't slow. His breath tightened, his jaw locked, and the corridor seemed impossibly long. At the far end stood the door to a private playroom, a room reserved for Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis, and just outside that door, Catherine, Princess of Wales. Frozen, her hand hovered inches above the handle. Her face was pale, her eyes wide, her chest rising too quickly. Kate looked up just as Michael appeared, and their eyes locked for the briefest moment. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Something inside her mother's intuition had already told her that whatever Charlotte screamed about wasn't to nothing. But something inside Kate also knew that Michael understood Charlotte in a way few guards did. He slowed only enough not to collide with her, his voice urgent but controlled. "Ma'am, did she scream again? Is she inside alone?" Kate swallowed hard. Louis was with her. I heard something fall, and then nothing. Fear in a mother's eyes is a very specific kind of fear. It's soft. It's sharp, and it makes every second feel like a lifetime. Michael placed his ear gently against the door. No crying, no footsteps, no voice, just silence, heavy and chilling. The guard glanced again at Kate. "I'm going in." Kate didn't argue. She nodded, barely, but it was permission enough. Michael opened the door carefully, shielding Kate behind him as he stepped in first. His training kicked in instantly, eyes scanning corners, movements, shadows. The room looked normal at first glance. Toys scattered, a small table, Louis's half-finished coloring page. Nothing threatening. But then he saw her. Charlotte stood in the corner, her small back pressed against the wall, her hands covering her mouth, eyes wide and shining with tears. She was trying very hard not to let fall. Louis stood a few feet from her, confused and slightly shaky, holding a wooden toy as if unsure whether he should use it defensively or drop it. Michael softened his voice, lowering himself slightly to remove the intimidating height difference. "Princess Charlotte, it's all right. I'm here." The moment she saw him, her composure snapped. She rushed toward him and clung to the side of his uniform with both hands, burying her face against the red fabric. Kate gasped behind him, one hand flying to her chest. She had never seen Charlotte latch onto anyone. Not like this. Michael gently rested one hand on Charlotte's back, careful not to overstep. "You're safe. I promise." Her little voice trembled. I was scared." "It came from the box." Michael frowned subtly. "What box, sweetheart?" She pointed with a shaking finger to a wooden toy chest near the window. Louis added, with his small, serious voice, "It moved." Kate stepped inside, eyes full of concern. "Darling, what do you mean it moved? Did something fall?" Charlotte shook her head hard. Too hard. "No, it pushed." The room chilled slightly. Even Michael felt it. Kate approached the toy chest slowly. It was one of those old heirloom pieces. Heavy wood, carved edges, passed down through generations. Nothing about it looked unusual, until she knelt beside it and saw one hinge slightly lifted, as if from pressure inside. Michael exhaled through his nose. "Ma'am, may I?" Kate nodded again. He approached the box cautiously, placing Charlotte gently behind him. With one hand, he lifted the wooden lid swiftly. Inside nothing but toys, stuffed animals, building blocks. A plastic tiara, a small drum, normal, harmless, innocent. Yet the hinge marks were fresh. The toys were disordered in a way that didn't match typical play. Kate pressed a hand to her forehead, trying to steady her breathing. Maybe something shifted? Maybe the lid slipped? No. Charlotte's voice was small but firm. It pushed like a hand. I heard it. Louis did too. Louis nodded, eyes wide. It knocked 2 times. Michael studied the interior again. He wasn't the type to jump to dramatic conclusions, but something wasn't right. Kids don't describe things in detail unless they truly believe what they saw. Behind him, Kate knelt and opened her arms. Charlotte immediately rushed into them, wrapping herself around her mother tightly. Kate kissed her hair over and over, whispering, "You're all right. You're all right. Nothing can hurt you." But then Charlotte looked up, her voice shaky, and said something that made both Kate and Michael freeze. "I didn't scream because of the box. I screamed because I saw someone in the reflection behind me, and he was reaching toward Louis." Kate stiffened. Michael's heart slammed once, hard. "Someone?" Kate whispered. "What do you mean, someone?" Charlotte pointed across the room. "In the glass, a tall man. But when I turned around, he wasn't there." Louis quietly added, "He was wearing red." Michael felt the hairs rise along the back of his neck. Kate went dead still. "Red? That was the color of a guard's uniform," Michael finished under his breath. Kate's eyes snapped to his. Charlotte's fingers curled tighter around her mother. Louis swallowed and stepped closer to Kate, and in that silent, breath-held moment, Michael realized something. Charlotte had not screamed for just any guard. She had screamed for him. And whatever she thought she saw, whoever she believed was reaching for her brother, had terrified her enough to call out the name of the only guard she trusted more than anyone in the palace.
Reflection. Every angle. The old window pane. The polished surface of a small dollhouse. Even the metal trim of a toy train that could catch and bend reflections. But nothing appeared out of place. Nothing that could explain a tall figure in red. Kate was the first to break the silence. "Michael," she said softly, "try not to let her worry show. Close the door. Please." He nodded, stepped back, and shut the playroom door quietly, ensuring it latched. The moment it clicked, something shifted. Not fear, but privacy. A sense that whatever was said next need not travel beyond these 4 walls. Kate gently moved Charlotte's hair off her forehead. "Sweetheart, I need you to tell me slowly. What exactly did you see?" Charlotte sniffed, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Louis climbed into Kate's lap, his head resting against her shoulder. Even he seemed to sense the seriousness of the moment. "I was braiding my doll's hair," Charlotte whispered. Louis was coloring. "I wasn't scared at first. It was just quiet." Kate nodded gently. "Yes, go on." "And then I heard, like, tapping, 2 taps. She tapped her little fist against Kate's arm for emphasis, like someone knocking from inside the chest. Louis added, "It was loud." Michael exchanged a quick glance with Kate. Children rarely exaggerate in perfect agreement. "What happened after the tapping?" Kate asked, her voice low. Charlotte's eyes moved toward the glass cabinet in the corner, the one filled with old gifts, small keepsakes, and delicate toys passed down through generations of royal children. "I looked up because I thought it was one of the staff," Charlotte whispered. "But then I saw—" She swallowed. Something move in the glass. Michael followed her gaze to the cabinet. Its doors were shut, its glass surface clean and reflective. "It wasn't a shadow," Charlotte continued. "It wasn't Louis. It wasn't me. It was a man. Tall. Standing behind me." Louis shivered. He had a red coat and white straps. Michael's breath caught just slightly, a reflex he couldn't control. A uniform. A guard's uniform. Kate instinctively tightened her arms around them. Could it have been one of the guards walking past the door? Kate asked gently. Charlotte shook her head hard. "No, Mummy. He was inside the room. I saw him in the glass, and he was standing right behind me." Michael stepped closer, crouching so he was at their level, but at enough distance to avoid overwhelming them. "Princess Charlotte," he said quietly, "did you see his face?" She hesitated. Her small hands curled into her dress. I didn't see his eyes, but I saw his mouth. Kate's heart skipped. His mouth! It was like Charlotte tried to shape the right description with her hands. Like he wasn't happy. Like he was angry or sad. I don't know. It didn't look nice. Lewis nodded firmly. He was frowning. Kate's pulse quickened, not because she fully believed there was a man in the room, but because her children were not the type to imagine identical details out of nowhere. Michael kept his voice calm, steady, and when you turned around, what happened? Charlotte's lower lip trembled. He was gone, but Lewis screamed, and then I screamed, and then I called you. Her eyes lifted to Michael again, small, fearful, trusting. I called you because I knew you would run. Kate felt something twist inside her chest. Gratitude, fear, and something else. A realization that Charlotte's bond with this guard was far deeper than she had fully noticed. Kate smoothed Charlotte's cheek with her thumb. You did the right thing, my love. A knock suddenly came at the door, soft but clear. Michael instinctively stood and positioned himself between the family and the door before opening it a crack. It was Maria, the children's longtime nanny. Her eyes were wide with worry. Is everyone all right? Someone said they were shouting. Kate quickly stepped forward. We're fine, Maria. Just give us a moment, please. Maria nodded, gave a gentle bow of the head, and retreated. Michael closed the door again, turning the lock gently. Kate exhaled, trying to center herself. Michael, is there any possibility that a guard might come into this wing without being seen? He shook his head. No, ma'am. This floor is restricted, only assigned guards and family. And today, I am the only guard station in this corridor. Kate frowned deeply. And your uniform? You're wearing the blue patrol one today, not the red full dress. Yes, ma'am, he confirmed. No one on duty is in red today. Kate's eyes widened just a little. So the red uniform Lewis described is not worn inside the palace except on ceremonial orders, Michael finished quietly. An uneasy silence filled the room. Kate tried to think rationally. She didn't believe in ghosts or visions, but she believed in her children. And children, when frightened, often cling to truth far more tightly than adults ever do. She knelt again and turned to Charlotte. Sweetheart, when you screamed, were you scared for yourself or for Lewis? Charlotte's voice cracked. For Lewis. Lewis pressed his face into Kate's shoulder. He was drawing. Charlotte whispered. He didn't see the man at first. But the man, he lifted his hand like he wanted to touch him. Michael felt a cold jolt run through him. For the first time, the idea that this was more than childish imagination settled into the room's air. Kate's voice broke slightly. Thank you for telling me, darling. Your honesty is very brave. Charlotte leaned forward, wrapping her arms around Kate's neck. Please don't let him come back. Kate kissed her temple, whispering, I won't. I promise. But even as she said it, her eyes lifted to Michael, silently asking the question she was too afraid to voice in front of her children. What if this wasn't imagination? What if there was someone? What if security had a hole no one had seen before? Michael understood her unspoken fear instantly. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Ma'am, with your permission, I'd like to inspect the room thoroughly. Every corner, every inch of glass. And after that, I'll check the hallway logs. Kate nodded once. Do it. She turned to the children. Come with me, loves. We're going to sit just outside the room while Officer Alden checks things. Charlotte clung tighter. Don't leave him alone. Kate smiled faintly. He won't be alone. We'll be right outside. And he's very good at his job. Charlotte reluctantly let go, and Kate gently guided them out. The moment the door closed, Michael let out a slow exhale. But then something caught his eye. The glass cabinet. Specifically, the faint streak of a handprint on the inside of the glass. Not a child's hand. Not small. Not soft. A long, heavy marked print. Much too big to belong to Charlotte. Or Lewis. Or Kate. Michael's jaw tightened. Whatever happened in this room, it wasn't imaginary. Michael Alden stared at the handprint longer than he meant to. It wasn't just the size of it, though that alone was unsettling, but the shape. Every guard was trained to read subtle details. Pressure points, angles, smudges, the kind of tiny traces most people would never notice. And this print, something about it whispered the wrong kind of story. The fingers were long, the palm broad, the pressure uneven, as if the hand had pressed hard against the inside glass, not from mishandling a toy, but as if bracing, or pushing, or reaching. He leaned closer, lowering his voice into a whisper meant only for himself. This isn't right. A guard didn't talk to himself often. Guards weren't supposed to reveal fear. But something in the room carried a tension that made even his breath slow down. He glanced back at the door, where Kate and the children sat on a small bench just outside. He could see Charlotte's knuckles peeking around the frame, gripping the edge as if making sure he was still there. The sight hit him harder than he expected. Protective, fierce, emotional. Charlotte wasn't just scared. She was anchored to him, trusting him. He quietly began inspecting every inch of the room, starting from the corners. Training had wired him for silent detail. No wasted movements, no noise, no panic. He checked under the small table, behind the curtains, inside the wardrobe, behind the door hinges, even along the upper molding where dust revealed disruptions no adult would think to check. But nothing explained the handprint. No hidden exit, no disturbed furniture, no footprints, only the glass. Michael moved back to the cabinet. The handprint sat faintly near the middle, smudged, slightly off-angle. He slid on a glove and traced the outline without touching it. A man's hand, but not his, not any guard he knew, and definitely not fresh, which made the timing even stranger. He took a small breath and stood straight, his mind shifting back in time despite him trying to push the memories away. Because there was one other reason Charlotte might have called him, one memory he never shared with anyone at the palace. It was a memory of another scream, another child, years ago, the night his younger sister died. He had been 15. She had been 8. A fire had broken out in their small home after a faulty heater exploded. He'd heard her scream from the other side of the smoke-filled hallway, frightened, choking, calling his name just once. Michael. He had run for her then too. But the flames were stronger than he was. He reached the door seconds before the roof collapsed. He never forgave himself for being too late. That scream lived inside him every day since. And when he heard Charlotte call his name hours ago, it struck the same nerve, the same instinct, the same vow he'd silently sworn when he joined the Royal Guard. If a child called for him again, he would never be too late. He shoved the memory back into the quiet part of his mind and continued his inspection. The steady rhythm of training grounded him. Check left, check right, check high, check low, evaluate threat, report, protect. He approached the toy chest next, the one Charlotte insisted had pushed back. He opened it again. Slowly, carefully, he lifted toys one by one. Their placement didn't feel like natural play. Something had shifted them with weight. Way a child could not manage in that pattern. The underside of the lid had faint marks, as if something had pushed upward hard enough to leave uneven indentations near the hinge. Strange, he murmured. But the deeper truth was, children don't invent synchronized stories with matching details under panic. Their minds don't work that way. Lewis saw someone. Charlotte saw someone. The box moved. The reflection showed something impossible. And the handprint was not theirs. He finally stepped back and exhaled, ready to exit the room. But before he reached the door, he paused, because something else caught his eye. Something small, nearly invisible unless someone had the eyes of a guard. A thin line of red thread, caught on the sharp corner of the toy chest. He knelt, picking it up between glove fingers. He recognized it instantly. It was from a ceremonial uniform, the kind only worn during parades, formal events, and certain royal ceremonies. But today, no one had worn ceremonial red. It wasn't on the schedule. It wasn't in rotation. And every uniform of that type was supposed to be locked in the palace armory. Michael felt the faint prickle of unease slide down his spine. He slipped the thread into his pocket and exited the playroom, closing the door quietly behind him. Kate looked up immediately. "Did you find anything?" The children watched with wide, hopeful eyes. Michael kept his voice calm. I found details that need checking, ma'am. Nothing immediate to panic over, but enough that I'd like to verify them properly. Kate's posture stiffened slightly. She caught his meaning, the subtle way guards communicate when not wanting to alarm a child. Lewis tugged Kate's sleeve. Is he gone? Michael knelt to meet his eyes. There's no one here now. You're both safe. Lewis nodded, relieved, and tucked his face into Kate's arm. But Charlotte, she was studying Michael. Something in her gaze was older than her years, as if she were reading his face, searching for answers he wasn't saying out loud. Did you see him? She whispered. Michael hesitated. Never lied to a child, but never frightened them unnecessarily. He responded softly. I didn't see anyone, but I found something important, and I promise to look into it until we know everything. Charlotte nodded slowly and leaned against her mother again. Kate led the children a few steps down the hallway to give Michael space. Only when they were out of earshot did she speak again, voice low, almost trembling. Michael, tell me the truth. Is there a chance, even a small chance, that someone accessed this wing? Someone in uniform? Michael paused. Someone in the wrong uniform, he corrected quietly. Kate's face paled. What do you mean? He reached into his pocket, revealing the thin red thread. Kate stared at it like it was something alive. That's from a red coat. Yes, ma'am. Ceremonial uniform. But no one wore red today. I know. Kate swallowed. Her voice tightened. Are you saying someone may have been inside, wearing ceremonial colors? Inside the children's room? Michael lowered his gaze slightly, the closest thing to admitting uncertainty. I'm saying something happened here that doesn't match any explanation I can give you yet. Kate took a step back, her breath shaking. But someone in red, she whispered. Charlotte said he looked like a guard. Lewis, too. Michael nodded once. Which is why I need to check the armory logs. Kate pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes glassy. Do you think this was an intruder? A threat? Michael looked down the hallway, quiet, polished, calm, then back at Kate. Ma'am, I don't know yet, but I do know this. Charlotte called my name because she trusted I would protect her, and I give you my word, I will not leave this unexplained. Kate stared at him, shaken but grateful. Thank you. He straightened, tone steady. With your permission, I'll report discreetly to the security chief and cross-check every ceremonial uniform. If even one is unaccounted for, he didn't finish the sentence.